Hey, what's up, Los Angeles, UCLA Bruins fans? This is the LA Football Show here in the LA Football Network, live on a Monday, your Bruins edition, 7:30 to 8 every Monday on LAFBnetwork.com, on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. Thank you always for making us a part of your day. Former alum, my man Jamal Madni. What's up, man? We're here on segment 4. It's been a blast from 6 till now, and now we're going to talk some Bruins. How we doing?
Doing great, Rye. Excited. Segment 4 here, and as our main man Dallas has put it, I guess it's my happy time. Dallas. It's I try to stay balanced, but I don't know. Maybe you see right through me. But our main man Dallas is with us, and always so grateful.
Yeah, I haven't been. I must be more balanced than you, because no one's ever said I go a different way, rhyme or reason. Maybe because I just didn't go to any school and didn't grow up here, so I had it easier. I don't know, but anyway, a lot of fun. UCLA wrapped up their first week of spring practices. We talked briefly about them last week. They had their final one on Saturday, I believe. Our good buddy Dirty Chai, Will Decker, was there. Maybe if he's in here, he'll jump in with us. I'm sure he'll pop in maybe for a few and say something. We'll see if he wants to join us. But I thought there was a lot of good to come out of it. Dante Moore, as advertised, at throwing the ball, and also in terms of at the podium, and had a fun picture come out today with, we've talked about a lot. I mean, all the stars practice at UCLA. I mean, that Wasserman Center in Westwood, maybe just the best, not one of the best, the best in all of college football, or the pros for that matters, in terms of facilities, in terms of location, in terms of view, weather. And so all the stars in the NFL come out, and he had a fun picture with Trey Lance, who has a 45-year-old hairline already, and the great Pat Mahomes. But Dante Moore was at the center of it all. So with all that being said, Jamal, just your initial thoughts of week 1 of spring ball for our Bruins.
Yeah, Ryan. I mean, I think there's a lot to take away, a lot to like. I think first, just culturally, I think that this is a very different vibe and feel in terms of the spring than in years past of the Chip Kelly era, in the fact that the practices are open to the public. And so you can see Martin Jarman's influence on this program, and allowing the public and the fans to really engage and be part of the process and part of the evolution of this team from April all the way until December. And so there's just a different vibrancy and energy over the course of spring practice, and that really culminated on Saturday, where you had over 100 former players in attendance for the first Saturday spring practice. So I mean, it was just an incredible vibe there. Martin Jarman kind of working the field, working the room. And it was very impressive to see just that energy level, just culturally. I think that's one piece. I think the second piece that really sort of, sticks out. Yeah, go for it.
Before you get into second piece, is there anyone in college football that works the room better than Martin Jarman? I mean, if that guy needs to start teaching TED Talks on how to work the room.
No, I think that it's going to be, it's insane. He's so personable. He's so charming. He's so energetic. And, just he is really, you can tell, an athletic director of the people. And he wants to get in there. He's in the campus. He's doing Instagram reels with students. He's on social media. He loves taking selfies with fans. And now, kind of opening up. He's really sort of a community-oriented AD. I think Mike Bohn is a very effective AD, done amazing things, got Lincoln Riley. But Mike Bohn seems to be a little bit more like, I'm in my ivory tower, I'm in my office. And, there's sort of a gap there between him and the fans. Jarman is sort of in there, in the crowd, and really you can see him, feel him, touch him, talk to him and all of that. So he's done wonders for UCLA.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, I just wanted to dive in there because I've loved Martin Jarman since the hire, and I think what he's done for the program, and had some rollover, obviously keeping Chip Kelly, keeping McClure. Obviously, that's an easy one because how great he is, but kind of walked into a situation that coaching wise was good, but he trusted it. But then also in terms of sponsorship, advertising, brand partnerships, he did a lot of his own fingerprint, and then also just bringing the brand of UCLA in general kind of back to where it should be in the confines of not just LA, but in terms of national athletics, obviously in basketball, but then in football too. He's done such a tremendous job of that. And that just piggybacks on what you talked about him doing with spring ball, making it open to the public, really letting the fans see the Wasserman Center, letting the media really portray, and still not a lot of media, but some media able to portray what the Wasserman Center and how great it is and one of the greatest facilities in all of college athletics. So anyway, on to your point too.
No, I completely agree, Ryan. And so, obviously the cultural piece is point one. Point two is everyone wants to see Dante, right? And so, what has Dante Moore been like? And I think this first week, he's been really strong, solid. He missed a couple throws from time to time, but he's every bit as advertised in terms of arm talent and just in terms of being able to make every throw and just kind of the poise and the command that he has. And I think he was even more impressive in his first ever interview on Saturday. And just, he walked in, he shook every media member's hand. Yeah. He answered every question. He sort of commanded the audience. There was a poise, there was an aura, there was a charisma, there was a confidence, there was a swagger. And I swear to you, Ryan, you close your eyes and you just listen to him. It reminded me the same reaction you and I had with Caleb Williams last year in his first interview. Dante Moore gave us the same feels this year in that regard. And so the guy that just sort of looks the part, he is going to be the future of UCLA football. And I firmly believe he will be the starting quarterback come early September, come season opener against Coastal Carolina. And the Dante Moore era will begin much sooner rather than later. And I think the third point, Ryan, is it's not going to come without competition. Mm-hmm. And I think that, the go-in position, with the quarterback and the running back position was that Dante Moore and TJ Harden are kind of the future of this backfield. And I think what you are seeing, it's only been 3 practices. It's only been 1 week. But Ethan Garbers has put in a lot of work in the gym. He's put in a lot of work with his quarterback and his positional coaches. And he is making every throw effectively. And I think just throw for throw, play to play, if you sort of go head to head with him and Dante Moore, I would say if it's sort of the front 9 of Thursday in the Masters, I think Ethan Garbers is the leader right now. I think that will change over time. You've got, the 17, 18-year-old kid who's just getting used to college life, who's just in this system for the first time. Garbers has been in the system for 3 years, and you can just see that seamlessness early. Garbers is making every throw. There's a lot of zip on his ball, a lot of velocity, tight spirals. He's pinpoint with his accuracy. He just looks very comfortable. And some of the things that Garbers has also said, not only on the field, but filling that leadership void that now has been departed with DTR. I think Garbers is really salivating in that role as kind of the elder statesman of that quarterback room and the running back room and trying to really be that leader and be QB1 at the start of the season. So Garbers has really separated from some of the Collin Schlees and the Justin Martins, even though they have had their moments, Martin in particular. But Garbers has really looked like the guy that's going to push more, and it's going to be kind of a Garbers Moore situation moving forward. And then I think the other stud that has really looked every bit the part has been Carson Steele, the transfer from Ball State. He, Chip Kelly has called him a beast. Deshaun Foster has put sort of a beast emoji on Twitter the other day of just describing him. Every rep he's had, every time he's touched the ball, you can feel a physicality. You can feel him looking for contact, falling forward, finishing runs, and he's always moving forward. He's always keeping the legs running. In terms of style, he does run. He's got that nastiness of Charbonnet to him. Yep. And I think just physically, when you look at him, I mean, the guy is absolutely jacked. And in terms of arms, in terms of he's jacked the way Christian McCaffrey is jacked. You look at his body and he looks like Christian McCaffrey. He doesn't run like him. He doesn't have that explosiveness. He doesn't have that gear. But just looks-wise, he looks like CMC, and he's got that nastiness of Charbonnet. So Garbers and Steele are going to push the heck out of Moore and Harden for these two positions. And we're only in week 1. We've got another 4 weeks of spring to go. And then obviously everything going on in the summer. So I think it's going to be a very compelling next 4 weeks. So Bruin fans, get out there, especially on Saturdays at 8:45 at the Wasserman Center. Get out there and make an assessment for yourself.
Yeah, the state of the program is in a very, very good place right now, in terms of hype, in terms of talent, and in terms of early production, and in terms of battles going on in these practices at some of the most important positions. Going back to your second point about Moore, luckily for him, he only had to shake about 3 hands because that's all the media that UCLA allows in their practice and games. But I love that he did that. I think that's super cool. And Yaps immediately just thought of Caleb. And I don't know if UCLA fans would like to hear that or not like to hear that. I think you would like to hear that, considering Caleb is the best quarterback in college football and won the Heisman Trophy. Anytime you can be compared to that guy, that's a good thing. And that was the immediate thing, Jamal. I remember we were at Pac-12 Media Day, and that was our first true glimpse of Caleb. And it was just we've talked about this a bunch, but if you don't know, we were sitting down for lunch break. So it was outside of the media realm. This was just like, okay, everyone grab lunch, sit as human beings. And Lincoln Riley and Caleb and Shane Lee happened to sit at our table with us while we ate lunch. And even just talking to him and then seeing him in interviews, you could just tell Caleb had this like very well, whether it was groomed or trained or just his personality in general, which I think now we see it more as a personality than it seemed more groomed, was just so ready for that moment. And Dante Moore at 17 already seems ready for the moment. Even if it was only in front of 3 reporters, it's still impressive when you're on the big stage at a big Division I school as the arguable number 1 quarterback recruit in the nation, with a lot of hype to live up to, having to win the job and all this, and answered every question, answered so eloquently and so well. And, I don't think I spoke that well at 17. I don't think I could answer those kind of questions at 17, regardless of if my parents were asking me questions. So I think it's a step in the right direction. Now, obviously, we need to see on the field, but one of the big things when you make that leap from high school and then college to the pros is professionalism. And I know college guys aren't professionals. They do make money from NIL now, but they're still not professionals. They're still college athletes, but you still have to carry yourself with professionalism. And this early on in his career, the fact that he's able to do that is very impressive and should just get fans excited that, okay, this is a kid that, yeah, this dude's for real. He's going to take things over. And then obviously we've talked about the arm talent, the throws he's been able to make in such an early go in the system. So that's on that. On Garbers, I mean, I think that's the best news Bruins fans could have. You want Garbers to be pushing for the 1 spot. You don't want Dante Moore to get the spot by default just because he's the number 1 recruit. You want him to be challenged. And we've said before, even if he doesn't win it, if it is a Garbers, that's not a bad thing or a bad necessarily saying that Dante Moore is going to be this bust of a recruit. That's saying they just have a really good, deep quarterback room, which is what you want. And Garbers has been in the system, like you said, for 3 years. There were people last year that wanted Garbers to start over DTR because he's shown a lot of things. In his first year with UCLA, he had to come in cold against Oregon and almost let a game-winning drive that would have really made things interesting for UCLA in that season when DTR got hurt before that last drive. So here's a kid with a lot of talent, played at Corona Del Mar, was a very, very good recruit and a very good high school product here in Orange County, went up to Washington, transferred down, and has had some success in spot play. And I think it's showing his patience and is willing to be here and compete. And is, as you alluded to, has really looked well so far early in camp. Again, it's super early, but has the early lead on the front 9 at Augusta, which is a perfect analogy as we just ended Augusta week. Hats off to John Rahm for that win. So if Ethan Garbers is Brooks Koepka, then I guess we're assuming Dante Moore will be John Rahm here in the coming months. So last point, or jump in. No, jump in.
No, I think the issue here, Ryan, is I think the shift that I've seen this year is just how locked in everybody is in terms of this program and how in tune they are with the reality of the program. And I think that if you look at Chip said something very profound at the Sun Bowl, okay, at the end of last season, where he said, for those who think that this isn't going to be a quarterback competition, don't sleep on Garbers. Garbers is going to make this every bit of a competition, and it's going to be kind of a photo finish until the end to see who's going to be the starting quarterback. Chip knew this back in December, January. And so he's completely right in that regard of how Garbers has taken that step. Garbers is so locked in on not just performing on the field, but being that leader off the field and in the locker room that DTR was. Then when you look at just the depth of quarterback room, there's 5 quarterbacks out there right now. We talk about Dante, we talk about Garbers, we got Justin Martin, we got Collin, Schlee, and we've got Chase Griffin. We got 5 guys who are out there who all have started a college game, or in line to start a college game. So you're 5 deep at quarterback, you're 5 deep at running back. When you look at Carson Steele and you look at Harden and you look at Anthony Adkins, the kid out of Army, 6'1", 235, who looks gigantic himself. Adkins reminds me of a sort of cutter version of Lendale White. He's kind of got that stocky build, that low to the gravity build. He looks every bit the part. And then, of course, we haven't even talked about Yankoff, and we haven't even talked about Keegan Jones. So you're 5 deep at running back. You're 5 deep at quarterback. There is just a lock-in and focus already in April in this sort of process that we just haven't seen in years past. And so the fruits of Chip's labor are really coming to fruition here. This program is looking more serious. They're feeling more serious. And I think year over year now, the expectations are going to be higher of 8-9 wins being the baseline. And that's where our season really begins. And there's really no reason why UCLA football can't have those expectations.
Yeah, as it should be. And thanks, Ruben, for tuning in from Watsonville. Appreciate you. Appreciate everyone in here for hanging out with us, talking Bruins. All these competitions going on, and Chase Griffin, who, he's not necessarily competing for a starting quarterback role, but he might be competing with you, Jamal, for your job at Boeing, because this is maybe one of the smartest kids in LA, and he's going to be on and be such a great leader and mentor. And he's another kid that came in on some spot starts during the COVID year and played some good football. The former Gatorade Player of the Year out of Texas. So the talent they have at quarterback, we've said it before, but I think it's the deepest quarterback room in all of college football when you go from top to bottom. And considering Chase Griffin's your bottom guy, and he has some collegiate start wins under his belt. So I'm excited to see where he ends up in his career. Obviously, he's definitely set his path forward outside of football and will be very, very successful. But what's been your thoughts on what we can see from the defense? It's hard to really surmise defensive play from, spring practices are all about, 7-on-7 drills, 11-on-11. They're not hitting. There's really not a lot you can take other than maybe some fundamentals and footwork and culture stuff. But stuff that we've heard from Will or that you've seen or heard from others, you can take away from the defense. Cause as we've said before, and I think we said it last episode, on paper, this is a talented defense. I don't care what anyone says. This is a talented group of 11 players. It's not the most talented. It might not even be the most talented in the Pac-12, but they're not lacking talent in terms of being a solid defense. And even you see all the guys coming back from last year, and then you add the addition of the, defensive coordinator and DeAnton Lynn. They add some Cody Whitfield there in the secondary as well at a Sac State, another young defensive mind kind of coming to the fold. So there should be, in my opinion, a lot of hype around this defense. We're talking quarterback, we're talking running back, we're talking Chip, but this defense to me should be hyped. And maybe it's good they're flying under the radar, but it's a defense that should be very good this year, I think.
No, I completely agree, Ryan. And, the one thing that I think we can observe here just through 3 practices and through week 1, even though these drills are more offensively inclined and sort of are more advantageous to the offense, you can see the competitive spirit in the defense. Because, whether you look at the secondary in particular, that has been a weak spot of this team in terms of being able to play quality situational football down over down and being consistent. And so when I look at the secondary play of Kirkwood, of Davies, and the fact that they've been going after J. Michael Sturdivant, the transfer from Cal, who has really separated himself in these first 3 practices as the true wide receiver number 1. I mean, he is catching 5 to 7 balls consistently across the 7-on-7 and 11-on-11 drills. Sturtevant is going to bring a dimension to this offense that we have not seen in the Chip Kelly era. A true wide receiver number one that has the vertical deep threat and the verticality to stretch a defense. In years past, we've had the Phillipses, we've had the Bobos, we've had the number one wide receivers be possession guys. Sturtevant is a guy who can absolutely stretch the field, blow the top off a defense. Now, having said that, given the success that Sturtevant has had the first couple of days, the fact that Kirkwood, the fact that Davies, the fact that the secondary has gone in there and sort of competed with him play over play, it's been really they've really enjoyed having those one-on-one matchups. And you can tell this defense really just enjoys the act of competing. And I think, D'Anton Lynn's emphasis on that is already being felt. Another really great example is Kamari Ramsey, the decorated recruit that UCLA beat Stanford out for last year. He came up and really has had some really nice kind of mano-a-mano moments with the likes of Carson Steele, with the likes of Anthony Adkins, and sort of has gone in there situationally and really matched up very nicely with them. So in these sort of pockets and moments, you can tell that the defense is getting really excited to compete. Now, the question for D'Anton Lynn is, how do you maintain that enthusiasm without losing gap integrity, without losing the discipline? And I think that's going to be kind of that next step in that evolution that I want to see week over week. But this is a defense, Ryan, on paper that really has a little bit of everything. Whether you talk about the Murphy twins and the pass rush, you talk about Latu coming off of the edge, you talk about Moasa being the ball-hawking linebacker that he is, you talk about John Vaughns being that hybrid linebacker / safety type of player, a la a Derwin James. And then you look at the talent on the back end, there's really no reason this team can't be top 50, top 60, top 65 defense. It really isn't. And the Dyrud equation for USC is, hey, 4 stops a game, and they're going to be okay. UCLA, if this is a top 55, 60, 65 defense, absolutely no reason this can't be a double-digit win team and is playing into December for a chance to win the Pac-12 and have even more. So I love the enthusiasm of the defense. Let's see it kind of be consistent and those habits be built in.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's all they need. Top 60, and you're looking great. Ruben Russ played with John Vaughns in high school. Going to be a baller this year. Yeah.
Ruben,
where are you playing at, Ruben?
That. I mean, John is such a stud. And then, he's absolutely crushing it on the baseball field right now. And, with that lefty swing of his and just sweet stroke.
Yeah, absolutely. Ruben, if you're playing anymore still, let us know where you're playing at if you guys played in high school. Teresa, thanks for hanging out with us, tuning in. We are hyped on this UCLA team because for those that haven't listened, after last year, it seemed like maybe not nationally just because UCLA is not really talked a lot about, but certainly maybe locally, it was kind of like, oh, this was the year. This was the year. Talking about last year, it was first year of Lincoln Riley. So it was like, we still kind of had the edge where Chip was going into year 5. We could have that year against USC. And we had DTR coming back for year 5. Zach Charbonnet came back. We had the transfer of Bobo. We had all these great transfers on the defensive side of the ball. And so it was like, this was the year when you lost Arizona and then you end up losing the SC and then you lose the bowl game. There was like this deflation, like, well, that was it. Now we have one more year in the pack. We're going to go to the Big Ten. We'll probably just be mediocre. And Jamal and I we disagree. I think this program is better right now even than it was last year. And that's hard to say. And that's no disrespect to DTR and Charbonnet and Bobo. And obviously some of the great offensive linemen that are leaving as well. And Mafi and some of the others, but and John Gaines. But I just think the state of this program as a whole, the culture, as you keep alluding to, the additions on the defensive coaching staff, and then this depth they've added on offense. If they can add a few more pieces to the offensive line, there's no reason this team can't compete with SC every single year. And that's what they should strive for. I know we've talked before, and I don't know if you still feel this way, but it's kind of, there's one of those thoughts of like, well, should UCLA just go all in on basketball and kind of feel like they're going to be a decently competitive football team. USC should just go all in on football, be a decently competitive basketball team. Well, I think in this day and age of NIL, social media, the different types of kids that they are personality-wise than they were just 10 years ago, you can have both, I think. I believe that. And I think UCLA is showing that this offseason, and there is no reason why UCLA can't compete every single year with USC. If UCLA was in the Big Ten West last year, they would have finished second, right behind USC in the Big Ten West. So there's no reason why they can't finish 1, 2, 3, or 4 every single year in the Big Ten, and there's going to be a lot more recruiting and NIL money coming in when they're there. So, I mean, there's a lot to be excited about this UCLA team.
No doubt, Ryan. And I think you said it best. Thought there was sort of a window of opportunity. And now what Chip has been able to do consistently with the transfer portal. And now, every once in a while, when he gels with the right recruit, with the right prospect like Dante Moore, he can reel him in as well as anyone with the gravitas that he still has given his NFL experience. And I think there's a strategy in place for UCLA football for the first time since I can remember, a sustaining strategy. The Mora era was a bubble. It wasn't something that was going to sustain. And Chip has found an ingredient. And we haven't even really talked, Ryan, about the hiring of Ken Niumatalolo from Navy, as the director of leadership. I mean, think about that. The director of leadership for the football program. Chip is really all invested in building great men. He talks about the 4 legs of a chair: academic, social, spiritual, and athletic as being the 4 legs of a chair, that the 4 dimensions that makes a great UCLA football player. He's all in on that. You can see that these players have bought in of that football is going to be an enabler for them to be even greater individuals. And that has now become the identity of this team and the culture. And so now when you sort of factor in, now the type of player that you're trying to identify. There's a very clear strategy, and now you're building depth along it. Ryan, I think in terms of front 7 depth, I think this is the deepest they've been since 2006, the year that they upset SC 13-9 and denied SC a chance at a 4th consecutive national championship game appearance. I think in terms of overall just depth at the skill positions, and on both sides of the ball, this is probably as deep as they've been since 2014, which was Brett Hundley's junior year, when they had the likes of Anthony Barr and Eric Kendricks and Miles Jack and Paul Perkins. And just, the list sort of went on in terms of who they had. So, we really thought that potentially the window had closed. Frankly, the window is wide open now and will be for the foreseeable future. So I'm very excited to see how the dynamic plays out. I'm looking for Kyle Ford to emerge a little bit more in spring ball here the next couple of weeks. I'm looking to see how TJ Harden responds to sort of the initial punch by Carson Steele. I'm looking at how Dante is going to respond, how Justin Martin is going to respond to Garber sort of setting a tone. I'm also going to see how the guys on the defense are going to continue to want to compete as these offensive players start finding their own and finding their rhythm. So tons of storylines there. Obviously, you can hear Martin Jarman work in the room. You can hear the booming voice of Ken Norton Jr. You've got the tactical Chip Kelly, and then you've got the voices of DeAnton Lynn and Deshaun Foster in practice. So there's a vibrancy, there's a seriousness, and there's just sort of an aura around this program that we really hope to see for many years to come.
Yeah. A lot of excitement. And Dallas says LA will own the big SC in football, UCLA men's basketball. I know we're biased here. This is the LA Football Network, but I honestly believe LA can own the Big Ten in football, period. I mean, especially if they keep it East and West. SC and UCLA are going to be 1 and 2 every single year. I mean, Wisconsin is the biggest threat, and that's it. After that, what, Iowa State? Yeah. Like, not Iowa State. Iowa State's in the Big 10, the Big 12. But Minnesota, maybe. I mean, it's going to be SC and UCLA 1 and 2, however you want to argue it, every single year, and they will battle for the likes of playing either Michigan, Ohio State, or Penn State for the Big Ten title. And I have no doubt that UCLA is fully capable of doing that. And last year, UCLA would have been first in the Big West. If both SC and UCLA were there, UCLA would have been second. USC would have been first. So these teams are going to be very, very good in the Big. And I love that LA will dominate the Midwest and the football conference that is. And we can finally throw that hard-hitting football moniker that the Pac-12 has against them out, I think, because I think the SC and UCLA will prove themselves. So a lot of excitement, and I can't wait till we get to see some hitting and some action and stuff like that. But I think there's a lot of good things to take away from the spring practices thus far. And obviously we'll have plenty more coverage for you here on the LA Football Network. Real quick before we close, our buddy Ruben Rust here. Look at this list you got to play with. Play with Clark Phillips, Chris Hutton, DJU, John, a lot of great players. Even got to play with Malachi Nelson at Los Al.
That's
Truly
wild.
blessed. Yeah.
That's an insane list, Ruben. You should be very proud that you were talented enough. I mean, it's testament to you and the type of athlete you were to be at Bosco and play with these guys. Incredible. And Ruben mentioned earlier that he's decided to go straight to work and work with Edison, which is Edison Southern California is a flagship company here in this area. So, sounds like it's been a great career so far, Ruben. And thanks so much for listening, and hope to see and hear more of you in the weeks to come.
Yeah, if Edison wants to throw some sponsorship dollars at LAFB, you send them our way. We'd be happy to accept that. As I've said many times, I live in Pasadena now, but I lived for college. I went to Long Beach State. I lived for our 4 years right on El Dorado Park, which was, a mile from Los Al. So super close to that high school campus. And so cool that you went there, Ruben, and got to play with Malachi and some other greats. So, but anyway, this has been a blast of a show as always. Thanks everyone for hanging out with us. Bruins fans, we'll be back later in the week. Our pre-recorded show will come out, on Friday. We'll be live on 1090 ESPN, the radio, from 5 to 7. And then obviously next Monday, back again live at 7:30 right here on LFBnetwork.com, on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. For Jamal Madni, I'm Ryan Dyrud. Thank you all so much. Have a blessed week, and go Bruins.